Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddugan.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. And welcome to Tell Me Your Story. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and the gentleman with the great smile in the picture here, if you're looking on YouTube, watching on YouTube, is Rich Hall. Beg your pardon.
Hill.
Rich Hill. He may have a hall down the road there, but his name is Rich Hill. And we are going to be having an interesting conversation today because it ties in with another series that I am co-hosting with Dennis Henson here on Tell Me Your Story. Our conversation today is going to be around well, let me see if I can quote from the very beginning of the book. In the beginning was the morsel, and the morsel was good. We're talking about the food Bible, which is going to be very interesting to see how that all came about and what we can find out about it. First of all, Rich Hill, thank you for being here. This is a conversation that we need to have, especially considering the fact that we're having a hard time. Many of us are having a hard time finding accurate, correct, information that is actually helpful instead of harmful. So we've got you here to talk about this book you've got, and of course we've got a website that we want to give out as well. Actually, a couple of them here, and we'll find out how these came about. B17works.com. I don't know whether it has to do with the vitamin or the airplane, the fighter from World War II. But wonderful to have that. And then we also have an opportunity for you folks, if you're so inclined, to go to rncstore.com, and you'll find out why as we converse here, to where you can put in a special discount code, TMYS 2026. That's TMYS for Tell Me Your Story 2026, where you'll get a discount of 10% on whatever you order there. And we certainly hope that you'll do that. Rick, tell me, why is this subject so important for you in this regard? I mean, we all eat. Yes, that's true. So maybe we all should be writing our own food Bible. But what implored you, what coerced you to do so?
Well, I heard a comment one time. And the guy said the best time to treat a terminal disease like I had back in 51 years ago. So, obviously what I did worked because I'm talking to you. But they said the best time to treat this is long before you ever get it. That you are prevention is the cure. If you can keep it from ever happening, that's great. And I think if people grew up with the right household training, creativity so that good food didn't get boring, that's another big problem. No one, a cheeseburger is really, really pretty inventive and tasty.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And, the things you can do and add to it, cheese and onion rings and, and you think, oh, my, I'll kill them for that. But you can do the same thing with a salad. You can do the same thing with a stew. You can do the same, yeah, if you just work at it. But we have had a problem called turbo disease since about 2020. And that is that whatever happened to us, I didn't participate in it, probably you didn't, but whatever happened to us, the net effect, well, let me put it this way. My oncologist said to me, um, I, most of the people that I had in remission, he said to me, have now relapsed that participated with a certain vaccine.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it is epidemic. I can't believe it because I had called him to see if I should participate, and he said, I said I'm going to lose a job if I don't. And he said, then sell pencils on the corner, Rick. Don't be stupid.
Mm-hmm.
I said, okay. But this all started, I give you a little quick recap. This all started in 1974. I was 24 years old. If you think I'm ugly now, this is what I looked like in
Oh
1974
my heavens.
with the, Fonzie hairdo. I was a Detroit greaser. And that thing on my nose, of course, is a gastric tube.
Yeah.
But that's at the Mayo Clinic when I was 24 years old. I weighed 120 pounds and I was on morphine and I was in a bad mood. So you can imagine what life was like for me at the Mayo Clinic that young. I've just been married a year. We were just expecting our first child, and my world caves in,
Yeah.
collapses.
Mm.
On a Friday, I'm talking to my chemotherapist. On a Monday, I'm supposed to start chemotherapy. And the trajectory of my life, Doc, changed that day and has never gone the other way. It'd make a great little movie because that's an inciting incident,
Yeah.
act one, to build the story on.
Right.
And the story was that I got home that night from the Mayo Clinic and I got a letter, little, little teeny letter, about like that. 10-cent stamp on it. My wife hands it to me. I open it up. The letter reads, if you want to live, you've got to leave the Mayo Clinic.
Mm.
The citadel of modern medicine? Are
Yeah.
you? So I call this guy up and I say, look, if I didn't know you were a Baptist pastor, I'd think you were smoking something that maybe you should send me some. I said, what do you mean I got to leave here? He said, well, I just know of a couple of clinics, a couple in the States, a couple of them in other countries, and they use natural food products, derivatives,
Mm-hmm.
not drugs. And I've talked to some of these people and they were terminal and they're well. And I said, well, where would I go? He said, are you sitting down? I thought, oh no, here it comes. I said, yeah. Well, you said you fly to San Diego. I said, that's good. I like San Diego. He said, and I said, and then he said, yeah, then you're going to get on a bus and they'll take you down to Tijuana, Mexico. I said, okay, look, I grew up in Detroit. I'm not throwing rocks at anybody's culture, but I don't think of TJ as being a citadel of medicine. He said, well, it doesn't matter what you think. What matters is what's happening.
Mm-hmm.
And so I said, well, I'm not going to argue with you on this. I'm just not going to do it. This guy was a John Bircher, and which I am now today, but not then. And he was always harping on getting out of the UN and, just driving people crazy. And so I said, I'm going to go drive back to the Mayo Clinic today and talk to my chemotherapist. And I'm going to tell him this story you told me. And I said, but before I go, what is it they're going to do for me down there? He said, oh, I could feel him sag. He said, well, it's an it's a derivative of apricots.
Yes. Mhm.
A
Mhm.
derivative of apricot. I said, or apricot, however you pronounce it. I said, this is how I know you're crazy. I said, I love apricots and I eat them every season. And he said, but you're eating them the wrong way. And I said, okay, I'll hold it in my left hand. What are you talking about? He said, well, you notice there's a pit in an apricot. Oh, I said,
Mhm.
yeah, well, of course. He said, well, get a hammer and open that pit. There's actually inside an almond, which I didn't know. And it kind of looks like that. A
Mhm.
little almond,
Mhm.
littler than a regular almond, but and he said it's very bitter. If you chew one up, you'll know you did. And then it's got an amaretto finish to it. Bakers use it to make amaretto muffins.
Ah, yes.
And I said, that's how people are getting well? You're coming to me with that story? So I drove to the Mayo Clinic. I'm going to shrink this for you. I go to the Mayo Clinic. I sit down. I say, a crazy Baptist pastor got a hold of me. And here's what he said. And you know my case. You know, Monday I start chemo. He said, yeah. I said, what do you think I should do? And I thought he would teach me new swear words in about a
Mhm.
minute. Instead, he leans back in his chair, steeples his hands like this. He says, you know, Rick, it is warm in Tijuana this time of year. I said, message delivered. I appreciate your honesty. We probably won't see each other again. And he waved at me and I
Mhm.
left. Went home, told my family this story. That's when I learned the new swear words. They were not receptive, not at all. But my father-in-law stood up and said, I like it. I'll take him down there and I'll help pay for it. Deal.
Ah,
Because the chemotherapist had tipped his hat. And the hat was, look, Rick, we operated on your neck, we found it. We operated on your feet, we found it. It was everywhere
everywhere,
through
yeah.
the lymphatic system.
Mhm.
And you were down to 120 pounds, you're on morphine. It's over for you, pal. You know, it's over. And
Mhm.
my family had flown into town to say goodbye at his behest. He said, bring him in, see who gets to go watch. And so my story ends there. But can you imagine 2 days later, I'm down in San Diego in a health food store for the first time in my life? I mean, I was not a health food person. I was a Detroit greaser. We had McDonald's 3 nights a week, and we weren't eating McDonald's. My mom was frying something in lard, usually pork,
Mhm.
because she was raised in the deep South.
Mhm.
And, cornbread, beans, and fried, yeah, the whole thing. And so I'm in a health food store, there's Ravi Shankar music playing in the background. I see people pulling food out of barrels. Remember, this is the 70s.
Yeah.
And I'm the only one wearing underwear in that building. I'm telling you, this was stone ground life. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't blend. I don't. I don't know what I was thinking. But I got to the clinic and they offered me three things, and that's it. And this is part of the problem, Doc. It's too simple. Chemotherapy is not simple.
Mm-mm.
Radiation is not simple.
Mm-mm.
It requires $100 million machine and people standing around in gowns. And, I mean, this is so simple. It is a combination of this. Those
Mhm.
are ampules with B17 in them,
Mhm.
ground up these little seeds and cold press into an oil. And they were going to shove that in my veins with a shot, like here, 21 days in a row. That's it. 21 days. I did, and they handed me a diet sheet, which basically said everything organic, most everything raw and uncooked, and no sugar, no alcohol,
Mm.
no tobacco, no fun. That's what the diet sheet was about. I mean, for me, that was about what it was. And so I got a sheet of paper, and then I went in the next day. I rolled up my sleeve. They gave me the shot here. Nothing happened after the shot. Didn't get nauseated. Didn't throw up. Didn't lose. Well, now I'm losing my hair, but I'm 75 years old. And and then they gave me these enzymes, very important. And I'm not going to explain the mechanics, but I'll tell you, I'll give your viewers a free book, a PDF form of World Without Cancer by G. Edward Griffin. Okay?
Hmm.
All they got to do is type in their browser myworldwithoutcancer.com, and we will email them without a credit card, without being bugged by people. We'll email this, and I want them to read chapter 5. That's it.
Okay.
Because that's all about pancreatic enzymes. What a fantastic idea this was in 1902. An Scottish embryologist named Dr. John Beard said babies' pancreas pumps chymotrypsin into their system in the second or third month to stop cellular wild growth. And he looked at it under a microscope and said, these cells are pretty much what cancer is. And he took a whole bunch of stage 4 people, gave them this chymotrypsin. It worked. And
Mm.
from that day forward, he was at war with his government, like we are,
Yeah. Yeah.
suppressed.
Hmm.
Nobody gets to hear about it. Doctors thrown in jail. They lose their medical license, the whole deal. And so I wrote a book called Too Young to Die. There's 100,000 of these copies floating around somewhere in the world. This is not a scholarly treatise. This book is World
Hmm.
Without Cancer.
Yeah.
This is a story of hope. I tell it like it is, How do you go from being what I thought was well to dying and back to life again in 3 weeks?
Mm.
People don't believe that. In fact, the American Cancer Society didn't believe it. They accused me in writing in a newspaper in a town I spoke in that said, as for the testimony offered, comma, he probably never had cancer in the first place. I wrote the Mayo Clinic and said, the American Cancer Society says you misdiagnosed me. They wrote back overnight with an overnight letter that said, nope. Look, Rick, you're a nice guy. Save your money. Don't sue us. Your slides are preserved in paraffin here, now that you've raised this issue. And anybody can come look at your slides. You had stage 3, high grade, which is like stage 4, embryonal cell carcinoma. It's one of the germ cells. And chemotherapy was mandatory when you left here. In writing, I have that letter. So I didn't lie about it. But because it was so simple and so easy, people hear my story and they go, it can't be that simple. One more comment, and then I want to know what you think. The comment is this. In the early naval experience in the UK, the sailors got scurvy. And scurvy is a terminal illness. The sailors would get like this, and they're in terrific pain, and then they would die. The Queen said, hey, look, I'm going to put a boatload of limes on those boats. And she was smart enough to say, just cut one in half and squirt it in your rum. If she would have said, squirt it in your mouth, they would have went, oh, it's bitter. I don't want to do it. Yeah. But she just said, no, you're having a cocktail. Go ahead and squirt it in your rum. Scurvy went away.
Hmm.
Is it possible that terminal diseases, certain ones, can be because of a dietary deficiency? Doesn't scurvy and citrus sort of answer that question? And if you can say, yes, I knew about the limeys, I know why we don't get scurvy anymore because we eat oranges and limes and lemons. Is it possible that this is a vitamin deficiency? And if we learn which foods contain this, maybe we could affect how many people get ill. What do you think?
I couldn't agree more. A couple of things to dovetail off of. Number one, when my wife's nephew passed from leukemia, blood cancer, you often hear the phrase, regardless of what the disease is, oh, they lost their battle with whatever it was.
Yeah.
Being a metaphysician, I came to the realization that that was wrong. He didn't lose. If they had found a way to put leukemia into remission, he would have won for a short time because, as my father often said, eat, drink, and be merry in moderation because nobody gets out of this world alive.
Yeah.
So he would have won for a short time in this life. It didn't go into remission, and he still won because he's free of that body.
Yeah.
All right, that's one thing. Secondly, as far as the apricot seeds and that extract that was created, I was the producer of a program back in Phoenix in the 80s on a Christian radio station, but it was a health program. And the guy and I had a great time. He was a chiropractor, but he was also a naturopath, or at least that was his modus operandi.
Yep.
One day, I came into work and he didn't show up for his show. And then I found out he'd been arrested and put in jail
Oh,
because he had brought apricot seeds across the border.
imagine that.
Yeah. And
A food product. A food
product. Exactly. Yeah. Now, I'll tell you how much fun he and I had. Now, you talked about all the foods you love to eat. My favorite candy bar was Snickers.
Oh, that's so good.
He's in the studio on the air. He's talking about health and he's talking about the good foods to eat, to which I then raise up my Snickers bar with the label and I just wave it through the window. And he says, "No, Richard, no."
No sugar.
And laughed and laughed. Well, here I am. I'm 65. And I am now dealing with what I thought I should have been dealing with in my teens and 20s. But it was because of the fact that I bicycled everywhere that the sugar didn't bother me. I was processing it. I'm more sedentary now. So today I'm dealing with type 2. Type 2.
I got it.
And now I'm seeing all kinds of videos on how, oh no, they say that it's the sugar, that's the problem. No, that's not it. It's this sticky stuff on the cells. Oh, no, it's not that. There's this parasite that's attached to your pancreas. And I'm sitting here going,
help.
What do I do? Now, I have been using now for the last few years in much of my food and even my coffee, cinnamon.
Yeah,
and then I saw a mixture of turmeric, cinnamon, and rosemary.
Had it today. Yeah.
Tastes terrible.
Yep.
I got to figure a way to better that.
I'll tell you how to do it when you're done. Yep.
All right. So I'm looking for all this. Now, I will tell you that several years ago, I was diagnosed with high blood pressure. I don't have high blood pressure anymore, and I'm not taking any meds. And there's nothing special I did about this. Going back to type 2, in 2020, I was diagnosed. I got my A1C down to normal in 6 weeks.
That's fast.
Okay? 6 weeks, and it stayed there. Now, granted, I started out with 2 metformin a day, but within 2 weeks, I said, I'm monitoring. I'm going down to 1, and I'll see what happens. Because I'm monitoring. If it goes up, I'll get back onto the 2. It didn't go back up. November, I go in for a check. And he says, okay, very good. Just keep doing what you're doing. So I stayed with the 1. I didn't tell him what I had done. February of 21, I go in, another A1C check. Oh, you're down to normal. Go ahead and drop down to 1. So I dropped the 1.
Yeah.
Continuing to monitoring, it stayed level and down until April of 2024. Now, I thought it was the year before when my father passed away, but it was the year later when we had our car was totaled. My wife was driving. Thank God she wasn't hurt. But the truck was totaled. Then a dear friend, my best friend of 53 years, passed away. Another dear friend passed away. I mean, and the list kept growing. And I did some research, and it said that yes, stress can affect your glucose levels. So I shared this with my physician, my primary care. No, that stress has nothing to do with it. Well, I had a hard time with that because stress affects the hormones, insulin is a hormone, et cetera, et cetera. So here I am today, 2026. My wife and I have moved from Santa Barbara to Twin Peaks near Lake Arrowhead, California. We now own our own home, and slowly but surely the stress level is diminishing. However, the blood sugar is still not coming down. I have tried that, like I said, I even tried one remedy they say do at night. You boil some cinnamon sticks for about 15, 20 minutes. You drink the liquid before you go to bed, and that's supposed to get rid of this parasite. Well, first of all, I had no problem whether it was the parasite or not because the cinnamon is supposed to be a good a glucose support, if you will.
Yeah.
So I've gone through all of this. I've shared all of this with you, with my listeners over the years. Someone could write my biography with what I've shared, and I've not violated any HIPAA laws, thank God, because it's all my history. And yet I feel good, although yes, I do have one or two of the symptoms, but I'm still active. We did a self move. When we moved to Santa Barbara, we had a moving van come and they did it all. But this time we spent 4 or 5 months packing. That's how long it
Wow.
took. I couldn't believe how much stuff we had. Anyway, but I figured, you know what, this could be really good because I haven't been that active, and this is a lot of activity, packing and moving into this crate and into this truck and da 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 da. And I know there are people out there who are very frustrated over whatever condition it is that they're dealing with, Rick. And like me, they are frustrated because they have to search so hard and so long for answers to reverse. Now, I know that we will never use the term cure on this program because
Right.
that'll get us into all kinds of trouble. But there are supports for reversing certain conditions. And I'm only guessing here. The food Bible has those kinds of answers. Am I correct?
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And I use the word control.
All right,
I,
better
I
word, better
believe
word.
if I went back to living the way I did in 1973, that I would again develop these problems.
Mm-hmm.
So cure is not in my vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing if the sailors gave up all citrus,
Mm-hmm.
they'd go back to getting scurvy.
Right.
It is a deficiency disease. So the Bible has a lot to say about these things if we look at it. I'm not going to preach here, but early in Genesis, it said God has given us seeds
Yeah.
for our health.
Mm-hmm.
Most people don't eat apple seeds when they eat an apple. It is amazingly nutritious and contains a good amount of this nitrilicide
Mm-hmm.
that you find in here. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
if you eat an apple seed, grab a couple of them because they're little.
Mm-hmm.
It's the exact same flavor, same bitterness, same amaretto finish. That God was saying, well, I'm going to take that same ingredient and put it in several seeds because certain things grow better in different cultures, and I want him to be able to get it. This grows really well in Pakistan. The weather, the ground, the apple seeds grow very well in colder climates. So God had the plan, and then he said, don't eat, don't mix milk and meat. Don't all the different people say, oh, the Hebrews are just crazy. They just drummed up rules to keep people miserable. Now in modern medicine, we're finding that a lot of the rules that they followed were based on good nutrition rather than just whimsical, some theological, guy that was running the camp said, I think I'm going to be against, and
Hmm. Hmm.
wrote it into a book and said, you have to do it. So I studied all that. And then I went to Mexico where they gave me, don't eat anything that isn't organic. 80% of my diet has to be raw and uncooked. Be careful not to eat sugar. Do. And I followed that diet. I even added some mild fasting. Now, most people, if they skip a meal, they're ready to kill somebody. I would submit to you that a 1 or 2 day fast is a wonderful idea, even if you drink some juices with it or organic or water if you can do it. But when you get down to 120 pounds and you're 5'9",
Mm. Wow.
a water fast is a little much. But I would do it with watermelon juice. I juice watermelons and I could have some of that juice.
Mm.
And Wigmore taught me that trick back in the 60s. So, or excuse me, 70s. So that is how I followed my diet. Now, the reason that I want to talk to your listeners, your viewers about this is that these 3 products that you can order from rncstore.com, 10% discount from you with TMYS, tell me your story, 2026. That's clever. Um, that's only half the equation.
Hmm.
You can take this stuff, and if you don't control what you eat, it just really won't do any good.
Hmm.
I saw more people when I was in Tijuana that weren't committed. They go across the street and order a big, juicy slice of pizza loaded with pepperoni and this and that and the other. And I would see him come back to the clinic and I would say, let me ask you a question. You know, we're not supposed to eat that stuff. Yeah, so? Well, I said, you're spending money to be down here. Why would you go eat that? Well, because I like it. You think, what's the
Yeah.
matter with me that I don't want to do? Well, I wouldn't say I didn't want to do that. I didn't do that.
Hmm.
And this fasting thing isn't, and I want to bring up this subject right now because it's really key. The fasting thing is important because it affects how you talk to yourself and how your body answers you. When you're fasting, your body goes, he's trying to kill us. We haven't had any food in 2 days. This is it. This is the end for us.
Hmm.
And your immune system goes into hyperdrive. That's the point. You want to be in hyperdrive from time to time, and all systems alert, all systems go, that you and your body are having this conversation. Well, I would fast 2 days a week and then I would do a colonic. That's a story we'll talk about another time if you have me back.
Oh
Not
yeah.
exactly a day at the beach, but I did it religiously because I wanted to completely clean. Elvis died with what, 50 pounds of undigested matter in his colon.
Oh.
50. So, you can't be well like that.
No.
Poison it, you get leaky gut and all the other stuff. So, the other conversation you have with yourself is about food in general. If you sit down at a beautiful stew or a beautiful salad and you go, I'd rather have a cheeseburger right now, and you tell yourself that, your body's going, I was eating that stuff when we were dying. He's trying to kill us. He is trying to kill us again. And now you and your body are having this subliminal argument. I know I'm waving my arms around. That's what's causing the hand. You and your body are having this subliminal argument about whether you should live or die. But when you're having that beautiful stew or that salad or, whatever, then your body goes, oh, good. He's trying to keep us alive. Because since he started eating that way, we have felt better ever since. Thank you, Rick. Thank you for doing this for us. But if you sneak off and get that big greasy something, your body is going to go, oh no, we were doing so well and now we're not because this idiot is trying to kill us. That is what's called signaling in the world of medicine.
Mm-hmm.
That your cells signal to each other what they need, what they want, and they think is happening. So you're not going to get away with it. Your own body is going to tell on you and argue with you about what you're doing. And when Dr. Contreras taught me that, he said, food is not for facial entertainment. Food is for your health. And before you put anything in your mouth, you should ask, is this going to contribute to my health or disease? It's not a complex situation. And how you believe that and then go forward with it has a lot to do. So go ahead. This is your ballywick, this whole argument
Mm-hmm.
about the self-arguments and self, but the Bible speaks of it all the time about what a man has in his heart manifests out in the world. You just didn't think that your own body is going to be arguing with you, but it is. Go ahead.
We're talking with Rick Hill. The Food Bible is the latest work of his, and we're going to continue doing that. Don't forget to go to rnc.com. And when you go looking for these particular items that Rick's been talking about, put in that discount code TMYS 2026. TMYS 2026. As we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. I am Reverend Dr. D. Richard Dugan, and he is Rick Hill, author of the Food Bible. This conversation is interesting, especially in this day and age when, Rick, we have a lot of challenges when it comes to searching for answers. And it used to be that we'd go to our doctor as I was a kid and my parents would take me. They trusted what the doctor was telling them. And, and they would follow through with the various things that the doctor suggested, whether it was a flu shot or those types of things. But today, people are deciding, I'm not going to do anything that the institutions tell us, that the authorities tell us, that my doctor tells us, and so forth. And now we have, and again, I'm not taking sides on vaccines. All I'm saying is we used to use the measles vaccine, almost eradicated. Now a bunch of people saying, forget it. They're dangerous. That's what I've been told. That's what I've read, blah, 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 blah. And now measles is on the rise again. You do the math. You do the math and tell me what works and what doesn't. Now, I'm not saying, again, I'm neither anti or for. All I'm saying is, there must have been some benefit. However, times change. You and I both know that, Rick. And one of the things that I guess perplexes me, and maybe I'm too naive, maybe I'm too idealistic, but I just find it so hard to believe that people in positions of power, people running corporations, people involved in the food production in our country alone would actually risk, and it's not even risking, actually destroy the health of America, of the citizens of this country for money. That supersedes. Now, that's not saying all of them. There are some farmers, for example, they care. And they're doing the best they can to give us wholesome, rich, and or organic foods. And by the way, am I not mistaken? 150 years ago, there was no such thing as organic because
It's all
that's
organic.
because that's the way it was. It was good for you. My mother did everything she could to feed us right. She would, she would make, her own yogurts. She'd do the cultures right there in the house. Now, around Christmas time, she'd make her own eggnog, non-alcoholic, mind you, that was really good. She tried to feed us the very best she could, tried to do the best she could. And, and I, of course, have a sister who has since passed away from breast cancer. I'm dealing with what I'm dealing with. I've got a sister who has MS. I don't know about my brother, although I will say he and I shared a thyroid condition. I believe it's Hashimoto's syndrome or something like that.
Right.
Don't know about my younger sisters. The majority of us had visual issues, genetic. My father, that was what he passed on to us. No judgment there. It's just genetically what happened. Um, and it seems like it's getting harder and harder. We watched, my wife and I, my present wife and I, we were watching this documentary on food, and it was so depressing because basically what it was saying was there's nothing we can eat. There's a Barney Miller episode where there's a guy they put in jail, and he's in the jail. He's just breathing it in. So what do you and one of the guys goes over and says, what are you doing? He says, I'm eating. I said, what are you talking about? So I'm a breatharian. So, to which the sergeant says, well, save some for the rest of us. I mean, that's about where we're at now.
I've
Is
met some of those people. Yeah, they're real.
yeah. Um, Vegetarians have a real hard problem these days because Jagadish Chandra Bose, back in the 30s, developed a crescograph that measured the turgor pressure, or blood pressure, if you will, of plants. When he put chloroform close to the plant, the pressure went down. When he moved it away, the pressure went up, which meant these were living being, potentially sentient beings. Well, if you aren't going to eat meat or fish or fowl because you're concerned about the treatment and so forth, what are you going to do about plants? Because they feel too, and again, I'm being slightly facetious here, but we have gotten to the point now, Rick, and I'm going to put it this way, Rick, what do we do? Where do we go?
Well, we do the best we can. And the
Yeah.
best we can is to make sure that we can't live in a bubble, and you can have an organic farmer here, but next door to him is a non-organic farmer who sprays Roundup on everything that he grows, won't rotate his crops, won't, and then when the wind blows, some of that stuff blows into the organic farmer's lot and wrecks his tests, you know. So we can do the best we can, but I think if we obey the natural laws that we find in the Bible and we eat good food, drink good water, breathe good air, indoor air is worse than outdoor air, but we
Mhm.
pollute with fake furniture, and I'm not going to get into all that.
Right.
But I am saying if we obey certain laws and most of all, make the conversation, which is your ballywick again, the conversation with ourselves to be harmonious, to be, I'm eating this big salad because I want you to survive. As long as God's given us to survive, I'm not going to kill you off early. And you can be a crazy person and think if you have one bite of chocolate, you might as well kill yourself. Well, that's extremism.
Hmm.
That's not realistic. And dark chocolate has some value.
Hmm.
Coffee has an antioxidant value. Overused, it's not good.
Hmm.
I use nicotine patches now and then that I put on my arm because I have nicotine receptors
Mm.
that are important. But back when people used nicotine, it was organically grown, no chemicals added, and they would use it in some foodstuffs. And I mean, it was a totally different world than we have now. And I don't smoke because I think it's bad for my lungs. But every now and then I'll put one of those patches on me because I know that, especially after 2020, that can alleviate some of the symptoms.
Yeah.
So as we really study, we should be responsible to respond to that. I would log on to rncstore.com and order the Pro Pack. Or you could log on to there and get the Rick bundle. Then you get a free copy of my book with the Rick bundle and use your discount, and there's another 10% off. But we'll be rewarded. I'm 75 years old, and I don't have what I see other people have my age. I do have some lymphatic problem with one leg because of some surgery I had once. That isn't because I was abusing.
Hmm.
I fell and broke my ankle. That wasn't abuse. I was trying to avoid landing on my dog. You know, so you get life is like that, bumps and bruises and
Hmm.
things that we can't avoid. But when I see people in grocery stores and they're 50 to 100 pounds overweight and they're hanging on the back of their basket, and you look in their basket and there's 3 cases of Coke in there and Fruit Loops and that, and I think, how do they even get to the car?
Yeah.
And I just want to go up and shake them and say, there's really good food out there you could be eating,
Yeah.
but they don't, and they suffer for it. Now, if your listeners would like my opinion on some things, here's another website to talk about,
Hmm.
b17works.com.
Yes.
Like capital B, the number 17, works, plural.com.
Hmm.
If they go on there, it says if you'd like to get some information, click on this, and there'll be a little one page, I mean, multiple choice questionnaire. If it takes you a minute, you're slow. Okay. Send that to us and I'll read those. And if I can help you with something, I'll send you a form letter or I'll call you and we can chat.
Yeah.
But all I'll tell you, like you don't want to get the Hippocratic Oath in trouble, neither do I. And I
Mm.
am Hippocratic, or I'm HIPAA certified.
Right.
I won't tell anybody anything I read because of that. But my point is, I will tell you my story and
Yeah.
things I didn't have time to say here. And then if you like that story, I can legally guide you to get these things because they are only food supplements. They are adjunct therapies, like high dose C. I didn't take high dose C, but I took high dose this
Hmm.
for 21 days. And it really helped me. And it killed pain,
Yeah.
put me in a good mood. You know, it
Yeah.
was all good. And you need to be thanked because you, Doc, are part of the solution, not the problem.
Well, thank you.
And you're putting your neck out there for people to chew on and say, why do you have idiots like him on your show?
Yeah.
Okay, I never said I was smart, but
Hmm.
I'm alive.
Yep.
And
That's
I've
right.
been alive for 51 years after I was supposed to die. There you
I
go.
I will I want to talk about something real quick here before we wrap things up. But first, a reminder, rncstore.com. You want to go there, use the special discount code of TMYS2026. You also want to go to b17works.com, which will be linked to as well, so that you can find out more about this. Take that little survey, and we hope you'll do that as we continue talking with Rick Hill here on Tell Me Your Story. Rick Hill's my guest. And Rick, I want to ask you a question uh, in regards to our overall health, but specific, and again, not going to get political. This is observational. That's all this is. When I saw 41, 45, 47 come down the escalator June 15th, 2015, and start spewing the venom, the anger, the all of that stuff that you referred to just a few moments ago that a lot of people are dealing with. I said, I don't want him. No, don't want him. I didn't care about his policies. Didn't care about his policies. I cared about his attitude. And as I have watched him over the last 10 or 11 years, I have said this almost every year. This man is going to die because no one, and I don't mean that in the sense that hey, we're all going to die. I mean he's going to die before his time. Because no one can continue to put out that kind of energy, that kind of venom, that caustic nature, and it not have an impact on their bodies. But you've reversed it because of what he is consuming, and we all know what he's consuming because he makes it abundantly clear. he's putting out that energy. Again, this is an observation on my part. You see people, as I do, in the grocery stores, on the streets. Is it true statistically 1% obesity? I believe it was in the 50s. And right now, I believe it's right around 50% obese population.
Hmm.
From an energetic standpoint, and I, as a metaphysician, that's kind of what I deal in. Would you agree that there's a almost a symbiotic relationship between the energy we put out and, if you will, the garbage we take in?
Well, there is. And that was what I was referring to when I talked about that inner conversation you have with your own body.
Hmm.
When Paul told Timothy, take a little wine for your stomach's sake, he wasn't suggesting a party, with you drink a bottle of wine. He was talking about, yeah, be reasonable about it. And as far as our current administration, here's what I want from them. I don't agree with everything that I see by far.
Hmm.
But if Bobby, who is a born, dyed-in-the-wool Democrat at heart, if he will come in, here's what I want: freedom of choice. In other words, that my insurance will only work with a company that is dealing in chemotherapy and radiation almost exclusively
Hmm.
and doesn't want what you offer, doesn't want what RNC Store is doing, and won't pay for it. But if we'll say, yeah, give me the chemo, give me the radiation, now the insurance companies go ahead and bill us for 500,000 because we're using a lot of that money to buy senators, to buy, to own the company. And I wish that they would make one change, and I'm counting on them. I think they will. That they just say you have freedom of choice. The insurance companies can no longer select and say you got to use oil-based products to put in your body. You can actually get some of these enzymes
Hmm.
and your insurance company can pay for it.
Yeah.
Or you can have some of those apricot kernels shoved in your veins and your company, the
Yeah.
insurance companies could pay for it.
Yeah.
I'm glad there's hospitals. I mean, if I get run over by a truck, I'm not going to go to a chiropractor. I'm going to go to somebody that can sew me back up, give me a little bit of pain medication, get me back on my feet. But we are so one-sided in this. And that's what I do appreciate about the administration is I think they are fighting for this. Get rid of the colors in our food. Get rid of the weird labeling. Get rid of the labels that are this long when it's a whole food that they're selling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So other administrations have been lax in that.
Hmm.
That's why the rate of cancer has not changed basically in 50 years. When I was here just diagnosed, they would pay for chemo and radiation, period.
Hmm.
Today, my insurance, which I have with Medicare, will pay for chemo and radiation, period. And everything that I do to stay well, they're not interested in.
Mm.
So something's wrong,
Yeah.
sound the alarm. It's hard to get well today when it could be easy.
Yeah. And what I can't understand is there was a period of time when if you didn't have health insurance, this is before I got on Medicare. If you didn't have health insurance, you were going to be penalized. And I sit there going, how does that help the person? How is that really helping them? It's actually adding stress. Now, the stress is actually going to exacerbate any underlying conditions that they already have. So you're not helping the person by fining them for not being able to afford health insurance. There's just something wrong with that. I'm not saying we should have free. I'm just saying that the situation that we've got is is not good. And I've also there's another aspect of it too that I saw a study as well. Our population is decreasing because there are people who are saying we don't want to have kids.
Right.
Whether it's I don't want to bring them into this world, or I want to focus on my life, or I want to focus on mine and my wife, or my husband's life, or my partner's life, and going where we want to go and doing what we want to do right now. And maybe down the road we'll have kids. And there's this up in arms thing about this. Oh no, we've got to figure a way to encourage people to have more kids. We got 8.5 billion people on the planet. We don't need any more. I mean, if you're having a kid, congratulations. That's wonderful. But I'm not one of those. I mean, my father is his legacy. I won't be passing it on. But my brother, my younger brother, on the other hand, I just found out recently, and he's only about 2, 3 years younger than me. His girlfriend, wife, partner, what have you, she is expecting a boy. So my father's legacy through the name specifically, because I do have nieces and nephews through my sister's families. But it's like we seem to focus on all of the wrong things. Because the one thing that this program focuses on, Rick, is community, is bringing people together to try to address the challenges that we are facing, whether it's healthcare and or just our general health and so forth, or it's our economic situation or our education. Um, I know that as far as the poverty in this country, the religious communities, I'll say the churches, they're not living by the Bible. True religion, according to the New Testament, is taking care of the orphans, the widows, and the children. That is true religion. You want to be on the forefront of what the God wants us to be doing. That's where you ought to be doing it. And we'd wipe out homelessness overnight because there are more than enough churches in here who are tax exempt. They don't have to pay taxes on the money that comes in. They could afford to help and do this. And all of these people that don't have homes, many of them do want to work. Many of them do want to contribute to society. But they've run into these medical situations, just like what you just talked about, where
Hmm.
they get hit with something catastrophic like cancer and they can't afford any of it. And they lose everything. How is that the greatest country in the world? At least, there are certain parts where this is a beautiful place to live. I mean, I lived in Santa Barbara, grew up in Phoenix in the 60s and 70s. So we've got a lot of challenges, but I think you're there to help us to face one of those. And that is, what is it they say? If you have your health, you have everything. So let's get our health. How about that?
I'm for that. And I'm glad you're for that. And I know that there are listeners, viewers who are watching this and they're going, well, it was easy for those two guys.
Yeah.
Maybe not. Maybe not. You don't know
Um,
how I grew up. You don't know anything. But
yeah.
I'm telling you that my church stepped up and they had bake sales and they sold cars and they
Mhm.
did what everything they could because they wanted me to live.
Yeah.
And so that was real religion at
Hmm.
work.
Absolutely.
I couldn't use my insurance. They wouldn't take it. And the
By the
Mayo
way,
Clinic said, we're not going to buy what you're buying down there. In fact, I went back to the Mayo Clinic 2 years after I was on the mend, walked into my surgeon's office, sat down, and he said, stop. Before we have this conversation, I want you to know that nothing you did in Tijuana could have had anything to do with this apparent recovery you've
oh,
had.
Bill.
And I said, Doc, you look like a bright guy, but looks can be deceiving. I said, what do you think happened to me? He said, I think you had a natural remission. I said, how do you define that? He said, well, science is like that. It just went away by itself, and we have no idea why. I said,
Well,
well, how long was I here at the Mayo Clinic? He said, a month and a half or so. How long was I in Mexico? I don't know. I said, 3 weeks. If it's going to naturally remit, wouldn't it do that? And I believed more in you than I did this little clinic down there. Wouldn't it have gone away all by itself while I was here with you?
Yeah.
Why did it go away during a 3 week period in a place that I was unfamiliar with, didn't speak the language, uh, feeling very displaced? Why would that lead to my good health?
Yeah.
He said, I said, we don't have the answers to everything, but what they did. Now, I said, finally, doc, if you were a healer instead of a drug dealer, you would have taken one look at me walk in here like this, and you'd have said, I don't know, but I'll give you 15 minutes. Sit down and tell me exactly what you did. I'll take notes and I'll do some research. Deal. I would have plopped down and said, first of all, let me tell you what Laetrile is, then what pancreatic enzymes are. I'll explain what mild fasting does and what eating organic does. But I didn't. He didn't want to hear a word of it
Mm,
because Big Pharma was paying him 300,000 to 400,000 a year.
yeah.
And I had to flee to get well. That's got to change.
Yeah, it does. I just have one rhetorical question.
Okay, I'll shut up.
How is it that the insurance companies get away with practicing medicine without a license? I don't understand it. They tell us what they're going to pay for because they know better. Are there any MDs within the insurance company? I don't think so. I don't know so, but nonetheless, that's again a rhetorical question. We're talking with Rick Hill. The Food Bible is also the latest work, and rncstore.com. Also go to b17works.com as we continue here on Tell Me Your Story. Rick Hill, I want to thank you so much for being a part of this program. I've kind of pontificated a bit on this program myself, but again, I
Well,
put
you're
the
a passionate guy.
I put the disclaimer in there that these are my observations. I don't have the answers. I only have observations, and I try to do the math the best I can. I was great in algebra, but when I got to geometry, I said no, thank you. I want to thank you for being on the program. We will have you back to talk more about this because there's so much more. Congratulations on. There's a part of me that wants to throw away the word survivor of cancer. It's been so long since, but that's up to you. But you are indeed that. My wife, she is a survivor as well. 2021 was diagnosed with a rare form of fallopian tube cancer, had the surgery, had the chemo, and has been clear ever since. And has, as I have been trying to eat and drink well for our health. And now we're in our 60s and 70s, and we've got things that we're dealing with like everybody else when we get up here, because you can't cover all the bases. You do your best you can. My mother did the best she could when we were children to prepare us in that way, and I'm grateful for that. So thanks for being here.
Thank you. Appreciate you.
I do have three final questions that I ask all of my guests, and I will ask those of you. But first, I want to thank you for listening to and watching. Tell Me Your Story, New Paradigms for a New World, where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here on Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all 9 times at richarddugan.com. We have podcasts on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, Blueberry, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music. We're on YouTube where you can watch these conversations. We hope that you will subscribe and click notification. We hope you'll go to Amazon to pick up a copy of my book, Choices, 5 Steps for Life, available in hardcover, paperback, and Kindle. And we hope that you'll leave us a tip. Our tip jar is called PayPal. And we just ask for a little contribution to help to support the work we're doing and so forth. And we have links at the homepage of richarddugan.com to both Amazon and to PayPal. And for those of you who have and who will, thank you, thank you, thank you to those who have contributed and to those who will. And finally, we ask that you take some time during this, the decade of perfect vision, to spend some time in that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still small voice. It's not something we really covered on this program, but I know that it's a key component. I don't think that you, Rick, would have gone in the direction that you had if you hadn't gotten the guidance that you had gotten internally. With all of that being said, we do move to our final three questions for a very special guest. The first of those is, who is Rick Hill?
Rick Hill is a guest on your good show.
What gets you up in the morning?
Hope. And let me define hope. Helping other people escape. I get out of bed. See that painting on the wall behind me?
Mm-hmm.
When I first got to Tijuana, that was on the wall in the waiting room. A big one out like that. And I looked at that painting and I couldn't even sit in a chair. I thought I was the guy on the bottom and maybe this clinic was going to be the guy on the top in the red shirt. And by the 3 weeks was up, when I left there, I turned around and I looked at that thing on the wall and I said, you know what? Now I'm the guy in the red coat. And I'm asking God to bring people like the guy on the bottom to me. And I can share my story and help other people escape. That's what gets me up.
Final question. What was your best day?
Probably that last day when the trajectory of my life changed, when I read a little 10-cent stamped letter. I can't tell you the reverberations and the complete opposite direction that a little teeny stamped letter like that could bring. That was an inciting incident. And nothing like that has ever happened to me since, and maybe never will. But it doesn't matter because it put me on the road to recovery.
Well, again, thank you so much. And to that, I would say that to our listeners and viewers, you see, it doesn't take big, giant movements. Sometimes it can be the smallest of things that can change the life of the people around you. And that's what happened with Rick. Once again, Rick Hill, thank you for joining us. Again, the book is called The Food Bible. Go to rncstore.com. The code is TMYS 2026, and also get a copy of his other works. You can go to b17works.com as well. And with all of that, thank you for listening and watching. And until our next broadcast, podcast, videocast. Love to Lal. Jeanette, I'm still listening. Dad, continue to be happy because I am. Smokey, I'll see you on the other side. Mike, thanks for being in my life and letting me be in yours. And to my dear friend Zorro, aho, aho.